Hello, Younger Old here, and once again welcome to my channel. Now, as a volunteer motorbike instructor, just a little part-time thing I do, I've noticed lots of differences in the ages of the trainees, what we get now to what we got when I started quite a few years ago. Watch the intro and let's see why. We always seem to get a steady number of 16-year-olds doing the CBT, so they can ride a 50cc scooter. Basically, obviously at that age it's the only sort of powered transport option they have. We seem to get nowhere near as many 17-year-olds as we used to. There could be many reasons for this. When I had my first bike at 17, my dad and my grandparents basically says, we don't want you to have a bike, full stop. Now, we'll help you financially get a car, but we're not giving you one penny towards a bike. So I wonder how much of this sort of scenario still goes on. Also, when I was 17, we went into designer clothes and expensive trainers like today's youth are. They're more fashion conscious, and probably the clothes and image etc. doesn't really fit in with motorbikes. Due to the testosterone levels, I think today's young men know they've got more chance of attracting the young ladies if they have a car rather than a motorbike. And also, I think most young ladies' parents do not want their princess going pillion on the back of some oik's bike. So bike licensing here in the UK means it's quite time consuming to get your full licence, and it's also expensive. So let's look at the costs. So let's just take a typical trainee, 17-year-old, wants to get a motorbike, just have a CBT and get on the road with a decent 125. Now, my Suzuki B120 was 225 brand new. Now back then I was an apprentice, so it was really like a minimum wage. I was earning £15 a week. So basically it was 15 weeks wages to pay for the motorbike. Now there was no CBT back then, and you could ride any bike up to 250cc on a provisional licence. Now some of my mates, they were in the ocean industry and they were earning good money, and they could afford a 250cc bike for around £400. But we had no training back then, so we had no idea what protective clothing was all about. So our opinion was, any good t-shirt, a pair of trainers and a tatty battered helmet was just fine. I now cringe when I see people ride like this, but basically they've had some form of training and they should know better. So now let's look at today's costs. And if we take a Suzuki again, say a brand new GSXR 125. Now these have a recommended retail price of £4,700 brand new. So if you're on 17 and you're on a minimum wage for your age and you work 40 hours a week, it comes out roughly about £192.40. So that works out at 24.4 weeks wages to buy that bike. If you're aged between 18 and 20, your minimum wage for your age would be £273.20. So the bike is 17.2 weeks of wages. Now that's assuming you're buying a top end 125 like that one. There are plenty other cheaper, lesser known makes out there to get you on the road for a lot less money. You will need top end. You don't need top end clothing, I should say, but you need some decent riding gear, which you can pick up for reasonable prices. you'll also have to pay for your CPT as well. So the relative cost of getting a 125 on the road is not much more expensive now than it was back in 1975 when I started. So if it's not the cost keeping this age group from getting into motorbikes, then there must be other reasons. Now maybe one of them is parents will sort of buy youngsters now their driving lessons. So, you know, you're actually on the road to getting a car. Or perhaps it's just not the fashion or in vogue anymore for that age group to ride bikes. But then, I think a lot of it could be the licensing system in the UK. I mean, if you want to actually gain a full licence, I mean, back in our day, you just, a case of book your test, turn up. You're then basically asked to ride round the block. And somewhere on this route round the block, the examiner would basically hold his hand up for you to perform an emergency stop. And if all was good, you'd pass your test. And then you could ride any bike you chose. It was as simple as that. You know, I can't even remember the last time I taught anyone to take their main test on a 125. People just don't seem to bother with that now. So let's assume you pass your CBT at 17, and that will then run out 2 years later. So at 19, you're then entitled to go for your A2 test. But bear in mind, if your CBT runs out before your test date, you will then have to do another CBT before you can progress. Now, you'll be having lessons with a training school to prepare and teach you for your theory test, followed by your Mod 1 and Mod 2 tests. Once you have passed them, you will have your A2 licence, and that will entitle you to ride a restricted powered bike. Now, should you wish to proceed to your full A licence, then you can do this after another 2 years of riding. But here again, it will then mean more lessons, and then you're having to retake your tests again. As you can imagine, this is where the expense comes in. It does cost quite a lot of money to go through it in the progressive stage. Most trainees that want a full licence just tend to wait a while now. At 24, you can just do your CBT, theory, Mod 1, Mod 2, and then you can ride any bike without any restrictions. So I would say this probably goes a long way to keeping the younger age group away from doing their motorbike test. Now, a new way of proceeding through the test system has actually been proposed to the government, but as and when they may change remains to be seen. The proposal itself basically is to get rid of the A2 test, so your training will involve more on-road riding experience with probation periods rather than keep having to take tests. So basically it would work out cheaper for riders as well. I have actually done a video on this, so check that one out. The next group of, age group of riders we tend to see tend to be trainees which are over 24, as they can basically do all the steps to obtain a full A licence from day one. A lot of these riders seem to have friends with bikes and want to join in with them, or have biking parents, so they've actually been brought up around bikes. The training scheme I volunteer for is a stone's throw away from an iconic British bike factory, so we tend to get their employees come for training. They work within the biking industry and just decide to, get a licence and learn to ride. Also, they get some very good employee deals on bike purchasing, which is a damn good perk of the job. By talking to this group of riders, I tend to find that they will use the bike for a Sunday morning ride out, occasional ride out to a bike meet. They don't really want them for commuting, they've got the cars for that. The partners or spouses don't usually ride as pillion, Those who are married, obviously it means if they're taking their spouse or wife or whatever on the back, they probably need to get someone in to look after the kids. And those who are single, they just tend to want to go out for a spin with the mates. So it's more of a this is my toy type of thing. They're not interested in touring holiday. I suppose really at that age, and if you have got a family, an all-inclusive package deal somewhere would make more sense. During my first year on the road, I never bothered saving any money towards the following year's insurance, so by the time it was due, I hadn't got the money to insure it. So my plan was take it off the road, save up the money for the insurance and then continue again. Sadly though, because I live next door to some fields, I just used to take the bike for a little spin across these fields, and within about a month it was totally wrecked. So I'd got no bike, no insurance, and I still got about a year's repayments left to make on the bike. So I knew that was it. There's just no way I could financially afford to get another. But I did vow to return to bikes. I just didn't realise it would be after so many years. So at 41, I'd managed to get my house renovated due to years of DIY. You know, me and the missus worked hard to get it done. And the mortgage repayments didn't seem as expensive as they used to. And I now thought, yeah, this is my time to return back to biking. Spurred on by both my neighbours had bikes, and I think that was really what sort of got me mindset to get back into it. Which then brings me now to the next category of the age groups we see at the training scheme. It's the return to biking, or the born again bikers. For these riders, it's down to the fact the mortgage is either now small or finished. The kids have grown up and doing their own thing, so it's now time to live their life and get some enjoyment. It's either a bike, a motorhome or a sports car or similar. But for those who have even if you haven't got the funds at that time of life, it's easy to borrow the funds. You've got that much equity in your property. It tends to be this age group of riders, the ones who want to do the touring. They've had all the family holidays, the all-inclusives and things like that, and now they want to do something a little bit different, something with a bit of excitement there, a little bit of adventure, and to recapture, I don't know, that missing youth, what we all once had and enjoyed. I mean, I tour a lot, or we do I should say, but we meet a lot of other tourers and they all seem to be our age group, so this can't be a coincidence. So if you made it through to the end of this video, thank you for listening, and just goes to show, whatever age you are, no excuse, get a bike, enjoy it. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the content. If so, please do the ticks, and as always, ride safe, take care, and bye for now.